All right. So I wanted to make an attempt at trying to find a way to get some catharsis without going straight to therapy. Don't mind the cats and the dog, please. But I just wanted to do my face and talk about kind of what's been going on in my life. Um, First things first, I am 24, going to be 25 this month. I was born in the South in 96. I lived in the Midwest for about 10 years and then moved back here to the South when I was about 12. Um, for the most part, I had kind of an okay childhood. I'm going to start with my priming spray. And just let that sit for a minute. I have 3 younger siblings. I have 2 sisters and a brother, 2 of which are still, they're about 14, 15, and my other sister is 19 going on 20. And I love each and every one of them. So, the catalyst for me wanting to do all this was because there's been a lot of drama going on, and I found out my parents have blocked me completely as of either today or yesterday. I'm not really sure. And that's just been kind of like freeing, but also like, oh, okay. It all kind of stems from the way that my parents treat us and will honestly treat the kids. Alright. So I'm using the NYX color correcting concealer. This is the one that I like to use. And the thing that's been going through my head lately is just that, my mirror over here. It's that, I have good memories of my parents. I do have memories of my childhood being, pretty positive. Of course, there were times when, parents fight, and there's times when you get in trouble with your parents and that kind of thing. But I always just assumed that everything that was going on with my parents and the way that they disciplined us was normal. I've come to realize recently that it is not. There were times when my parents would fight with each other and then come into my bedroom that I shared with my next eldest sister. And they would come in and throw things and just, like take our toys and break them and things like that. And a lot of the time they would come in and just want to vent to us, like complain about the other person, be it my mom or my dad. And I just remember a lot of those fights and the things that were said because my parents would always, threaten each other with like, oh, I'm gonna leave, or I should be dead, and all of this other things. And one that my dad would always go to a lot is, I just wish I would die so that way you guys could collect the insurance money, I wouldn't have to deal with you, and you wouldn't have to deal with me. And I always thought that my dad was just dramatic. I know for a fact my mother is. Pardon how messy my color concealer is. I don't use it. I don't think I use it correctly. But so my parents, they fought a lot. They raised my aunt as one of their own, so she's considered my sister, but By blood, she is my cousin. Get out of the way. I need you to move, Belle. Thank you. There's the dog again. But, the dynamic with her and with my parents was always really strange because, she was kind of a rebellious child and didn't have a lot of structure where she came from. So, she was in trouble a lot and she babysat us a lot. And that's all fine and dandy. I have an okay relationship with her now. I'm going to use my Can't Stop, Won't Stop NYX concealer. But they often fought. There was times when my aunt, when I was a teenager, had to go to rehab and, among other things, just wasn't around as much. And that's about the time when I started babysitting my siblings full time. But I had been doing it for a long time before that. Because my parents were always working. My mom had worked 12-hour shifts as a dispatch officer for the county that we worked in. So she was answering, 911 calls and things like that. And my dad is a telecommunications officer, meaning that he goes around fixing internet outages and services for people who bundle their, internet and their phones, for people who still do, like, landlines and stuff. So he was always gone a lot because he had, like, a supervising role, and he was always having to go out and fix these outages that were around. But they always worked really long shifts, and that left me to watch the kids. So I was learning how to cook at a really young age, and just overall being the parent to the children. I spent a lot of time doing that. It got to the point where I was not going out at all to hang out with friends or anything like that, because in their words, we need you here to help with the babies, because that's what they call them, the babies. But at this point they were already 8, 9, 10 years old. So I spent a lot of time doing that. This is my Can't Stop, Won't Stop foundation. But I never really held it against the kids or anything like that, because they're just kids. They don't know, what's up. When my brother was 7, he suffered an accident at his elementary school. He fell off of the schoolyard's monkey bars. And normally at, like, playgrounds and stuff, you expect there to be, wood chips and, stuff that if they fall, it's not going to hurt them too bad. Well, these monkey bars were obscenely tall, like, not nearly short enough for a child of his stature at 7 to be climbing on. And from what I understand, the teachers were not really watching him. And he fell and he hit his head. And based on the witness reports and everything, my brother laid on the ground unconscious for a couple of minutes before a teacher was ever notified that something was happening. So all of that happened. He ended up having to go to the hospital, and he had what's called a subdural hematoma, where he basically had a brain bleed and required emergency brain surgery to save his life. He survived, thank God. And, we weren't sure how his mental faculties were going to be. We weren't sure if he was going to have learning disabilities, behavioral issues, or anything of the sort. I'm going to put a little more concealer on that. I have a forehead scar from when I was a baby. Just pat that on there. So yeah, he had to have a metal plate put in his head, and he still suffers a little bit from social interaction and things like that. He's not very good at picking up social cues and things like that, um, which I completely understand. I used to be that way, but not to the extent that he is. Um, so, with all of this craziness going on and everything, after I started going to college, I was living with my grandmother. And the more time I spent there with them, the more I realized something wasn't quite right. I had a ring that my mom gave me that her grandmother gave to her. It was like a blue sapphire with little diamonds around it, and it was so beautiful. There was a time when she wanted me to give her the ring so she could get it appraised for the renter's insurance or some kind of insurance, and I didn't really vibe with that. Like, I wasn't sure what was going on, and I didn't think that that was true. So I hid it, and they came down to where I was living to come and get it from me. After I had already told them that I do not know where it is. I don't have it. I took it to work with me that night. And while I was gone, my parents completely demolished my room. Like, pulled my mattress off of my bed, pulled everything out of my closet, pulled all of my clothes out of my drawers, and just trashed everything. My dad was going to take the keyboard from my computer so I couldn't do any of my homework or anything. And eventually my grandparents got them to leave. But when I got home that night, I was like, something ain't right. Because who the fuck does this? So it's really been an uphill battle since then. That was kind of the starting of all of this crazy. I say that was the start, but I've always known that something kind of wasn't right. She has hit me in the past. She beat me up one night, my sophomore year of high school, because I was taking one of my friends to school in the mornings in my car. And it wasn't that I wasn't allowed to. I had already had the restrictions on how many passengers I could have lifted. I was 17 and had had my license for over a year at that point. But she, blew up on me over that. And, she was threatening me and telling me that, I wasn't allowed to see my boyfriend anymore, who was really my only solace from all this, insanity going on. So she got up in my face, was, getting all up in my face with, a finger in the face and yelling at me. And I just pushed her back, and apparently that set her off because she came in fists blazing and was beating me upside the head, like literally punching me. And that was the first time the CPS reports got filed. There have been several. But I'm using my Revolution Tammy X, my Carnival palette. I really like this one. It's super nice. I really love it. So, the way that things felt while I was in college was, just kind of avoid the situation. Try not to make her mad, things like that. And basically just walking on eggshells. I found out more recently that the things that she was doing right before I went to college were pretty suspect. There was a thing that you could do when you were signing up for college, when you do your financial aid, that asks if you've ever been under guardianship of someone who is not your parent, or if, you were ever a ward of the state or anything like that. And because my aunt was under her guardianship in her childhood, that made it to where she could get extra money through FAFSA and basically get a boost in how much federal loan she would be getting. So my mom thought, that sounds wonderful. I'm going to try to do that with the eldest. So she did. She took me down to the courthouse for the county my grandma was living in and had my guardianship signed over to her. If my grandma had known what all was going on, she told me that she would have insisted that I came home with her. And I would have just lived with her for the rest of my high school career and would have started going to college down there anyway. So there really wasn't a reason for her to take me home, and she really wasn't supposed to because my guardianship had already been signed over. So she used that to help me get several $1,000s more in my federal loans. And here's what happened with that. She made it to where all of my money, every semester when she got it, or when we got it, it would go to her bank account first. It would always go to her before it would ever come to me. I realize now that that is probably illegal as shit. So what happened is she had me convinced that the money that she was keeping from my student loans was to pay for my phone bill, my car, and my insurance. So out of I think it was $35,000 that I received through federal aid, I only saw half. I never saw the other half. And during this time, my mom and dad, they would go on cruises. They went on a cruise one time to renew their vows, and other times they would go to dinner or something like that, and she would text me and be like, "Hey, thanks for buying me dinner." And I'm like, "I didn't buy you shit. You took my money." So I've been dealing with that for a while. I haven't started paying back my student loans yet because I'm poor as shit. But whenever she first signed me up for the financial aid, she was like, "Oh, I'll help you pay it back." And that's the only reason why I was okay with it. If I had known, I wouldn't have let her do it. So this is relevant because my next eldest sister, who is turning 20 this year, is in college now. She starts class this month. She's going to college on a really good university down here. One that I would have never been able to get into, even if I was as smart as she was. And the way that it's going, my mom's trying to do the same bullshit with her. They've constantly asked for her login to the college and things like that so that they can access the financial aid office and try to get her on some federal loans so that they can have some. Mind you, my sister is not on their phone bill. She is not on their insurance. She's got her own car that she paid for herself, and her insurance and everything is under her name. So it's not like, they have any business putting it on there. They tried to send her an email from the college that was like, "There's something wrong with your financial aid. We need you to talk to us." It wasn't even from the same college. They were trying to trick her into getting that information to them. So that was another oopsie doopsie on their part. This is my eyeliner pen from Essence. It's a long lasting, but it doesn't take forever to come off. That's why I use it, because I can't stand to sit there and scrub my eyes with the remover wipes. It hurts after a while. So with them trying to access her money and all of that, she never told them that she's going on a full ride, because she worked really hard and got scholarships that are making it to where she does not have to pay for basically her entire time there at the college. I know this isn't the smartest looking blend or eyeliner, but I promise it looks a little better when my hair's down and everything. Um, so there's been a lot of drama with that, and my sister is living with my mother's best friend in the whole world. They've been friends for longer than I've been alive. And my mother is frequently calling up there, calling her friend, and asking about my sister's personal information and like things that what's she doing and all of this other stuff. And eventually she just said, "Hey, if you're going to keep asking about Becca, sorry, not Becca, if you're going to keep asking about her, then, you know, it's going to put a strain on our friendship if you keep this up." I'm just putting a little NYX shimmer on. But if she keeps, calling and asking about her and trying to get her information, then it's really going to put a strain on their friendship, is what she was saying. And this caused my mom to blow up again. And she basically blamed my sister for ruining a friendship of 30 years. When all that was said was, "Can you please respect this boundary that I'm setting?" And, my mom and boundaries does not work. So I put a little shimmer on the bottom too. It makes me feel pretty. So my sister doesn't answer her because, it's chaos. And later that night at about 8:30, she texts me, sends me a very long text message talking about basically repeating the same thing that, my sister hates her, that my dad hates her, that everybody hates her, and that basically saying that, there won't be a funeral, you don't have to see me again, and just alluding that she was going to kill herself. Alright, just correcting my lipstick a little bit. And this is my, who is this from? This is Wet n Wild. I don't really like Wet n Wild, but I've had this one for a while, and I just don't use it that often. So I had to kind of step in because I wasn't sure what to do. So I ended up calling in a welfare check on them. And because, my mom is not the most calm person in the world. I know she's hit me before. So I just wanted to make sure that my kids were safe. And so I called it in, they went over there, and I'm not really sure what happened after that. I haven't heard, but apparently they took her to the mental hospital after the police had been there. And at some point between the police taking her and me making the call, at some point she starts hitting my youngest sister and broke her braces that she hit her so hard. And I felt so guilty because I was under this feeling that it was my fault that she was hitting her because I was the one who called in the welfare check. I know that that's not how this works, but I just feel at fault. So she was on suicide watch for about 3 days. And then I guess as soon as she was able to have her phone, she texts her mother's sister, who is the only person on that side of the family still living that will talk to her. And then, the same woman came after me on my Facebook, cussing me out and calling me all these horrible names, saying that leave her alone, she needs to get better. And I told her that she had been hitting the youngest, that she has hit me, and you know, everything that I've seen, all the abuse that me and my siblings have gone through. And she just outright says, "That's not true. Your sister is lying. You're lying. And I don't believe all of that. And you guys are just ungrateful." And I just can't help but laugh because I was there. I was there. I know what it feels like for her to punch me in the head. Sorry. So this all led up to this morning where I found out that they had blocked me on Facebook. I don't know if they blocked my phone number or not, because I will not call them to know. It's just been a wild emotional ride for me, and I want to keep doing this so I can try to work through this on my own. That, and I can, I like doing my makeup, so I know it's not the prettiest, but I think I did pretty good. This is my bisexual look for my big bisexual self. The blue, red, and purple I really love. And I love this choker. I love the way that this all looks. My hair is super soft today. But, I mean, this is more so for myself. But if anybody is watching, then thanks, I guess. I'm sorry, it's kind of a bummer, but I do want to talk about stuff that I really enjoy, too. So I feel like next time I'll talk about... I think I'm going to talk about my favorite game. Or my favorite games, plural. But anyway, thanks for being patient, and thanks for listening if you did.